What's up, BiggerPockets? It is Tarl Yarber and my best friend in the whole wide world, Mr. Rob Knoles, here in Seattle, Washington. And we're here at this insanity of a project that Rob's going to talk to us about here in a moment. But for those of you guys watching us live right now, we're also filming this on an awesome video camera. So we're going to be talking to this camera the whole time. You guys watching it live, please make sure you ask some questions. We're going to do some Q&A at the end of this for sure. We might lose a little bit of signal at some point, and that's okay. But for those of you guys watching this on the main camera, we're talking to you. So that said, we're going to go into this major property rehab here with Rob Knoles right now in a moment here in Seattle, Washington, and it's got an insane story and what happened to it. It's going to blow your mind, like literally blow your mind. Right? So what happened on this project. And we're also going to go into the numbers. We're going to go into the insane construction project itself. How much money are you putting into this just for the rehab?
$300,000.
$300,000 remodel project. So if you want to see what that takes to transform an actual project here in Seattle or anywhere in the United States, this is going to be a good one. Plus, you're going to want to see the view of this property because it's worth every penny on this project. Because by the time the house is done, what do you think you're going to sell it for?
145.
145.
Keep
maybe
it under
1.5, right? 1.5. There's a reason for that. We'll talk about later, right? So $1 million plus project here in Seattle. So that said, let's talk about Rob. Rob, how did you find this property?
So it's actually brought to a wholesaler that I've worked with for about a year now. Brought us off market because obviously we can handle these kinds of projects. We had about 15 minutes to kind of go through it and decide before he quote unquote blasted it out. So it was a pretty rough, detailed budget thrown together. The comps were all over the place, which is a story we can get into later as well. So we went pretty conservative on the comps, which ended up, I think, giving us some tremendous upside as well. So
sweet. All right. So wholesalers, always go networking with wholesalers. I know that's something he does all the time. That's something we do all the time. So if you're a wholesaler watching this, definitely send properties to us or any other investors because we'll actually buy stuff. Mostly this guy, right? All right, so come out, check out the project. We're going to show you some really insane parts. I want to show you the railing first here in a second because it's something you guys got to see. Watch out for landmines too.
Yeah, right.
All right. So Rob, can you tell us this railing here? Can you guys see that railing? Right? That railing doesn't look like it's supposed to be like that. It almost looked like it melted off for some reason.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
So what really happened to this project?
All right, so the house has been vacant for about a year when we first got here. It's a pretty tragic story. There's an elderly woman living here by herself. She's been smoking since she was 12 years old, and she's been living on oxygen for the past 10 years. And she was having, I guess, her last cigarette ever. Lit herself on fire, and her oxygen tanks actually blew up. And once we get up top, you can see across the water to a place called Kingston, and they could actually see the fireball and inferno from all the way over there.
That's insane.
Yeah, so blew the roof completely off and melted actually these new construction houses, the roofing and the windows and some of the fascia and stuff, melted all that. And obviously, she passed away as well.
Did she pass away? I don't know if that's the right way to say it. But
I wasn't gonna laugh.
Yeah. You're not to laugh, right? So basically, you bought it from the estate at the end of the day, right? The property sat here like in the back
1 year
for a full year.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you think about too is how does a firefighter fight a fight like that? All they do is pretty much punch a hole in the roof. In this case, they didn't have to because there was a hole in the roof, and they just sit down there and fill the house up like a bathtub full of water.
Wow. And
so that we also had notice of violations for health problems because of the mold that was growing. And so the estate, actually paid to bring someone in and demo the entire project. And so when we got here, there was no installation, no drywall, anything. It was just down to the bare studs. So that took a lot. We could see behind the walls, see what we were getting into, and that kind of gave us the confidence also to move forward, knowing we didn't have too huge of a problem on our hands.
So a lot of people are going to ask for sure, like, because you're saying that the roof's blown off, the house was totally messed up. You can tell that you guys can already see from the outside there's a lot of work. When we get on the inside, it's going to be a lot more work that's happening and stuff there too. But with that said, a lot of people would say, why didn't you just tear the whole thing down? Why didn't you start from scratch versus remodeling?
And so actually the first person, as my dog is dying over here, that's actually the wife's dog. The first person who was looking at the property directly from the estate went to the city to try to get a building permit. One of the issues is that we are in a critical area. And so you actually on file, you can see his building permit and his plans and things like that. And it just came down, it was going to cost too much money.
Way too much money.
Because again, we're on the slope, so we already have a lot of engineering. And by the way, that was the first call, was to my engineer. Hey, what are we going to have to do? What's the requirements? I have 15 minutes to make a decision.
Yeah.
I need you to tell me what's the city, what are they going to do to us? What kind of the ringer are they going to put us through? And he said basically we could rebuild it like for like and get an over-the-counter permit with no problems. So that was the start of it, and then we can get into later kind of how we've evolved.
All right, well, we're going to go walk the project. We're going to talk a little bit more, too. Like, how do you get a project if you're flipping houses or buy and hold or whatever, right, or a wholesaler, and you have 15 minutes to analyze a deal that's completely studs out remodel, blown up big time, and how do you make a decision in 15 minutes? We're going to get into that when we go through that. We're also going to go show you the beautiful view, the numbers on the property as well, and some of the nuances of the construction on this house too. So let's go ahead and let's walk to the upstairs. And for those of you guys watching this live, you guys can ask questions, but we're going to answer most of those at the end. So that's something actually funny. I always forget to put honey buckets on our property.
They demand it.
Yeah, the neighbors demand it too after a while. When your contractors are using the bushes all the time. But
So here's our first glimpse. We have the Edmonds Kingston ferries right now crossing each other. So you see where the other ferry's heading over there is Kingston, and that's where they can see the fireball from. There's actually a videotape of it as well.
Fireball from across the Puget Sound.
Exactly.
So this is great. So where's the front door? Is this the front door?
That is the front door.
That's the front door.
Yep.
All right. So you walk in through the front door, and you've already framed up all the stuff. You got stairs, you got a living room area.
Correct.
And what else we got going on?
So we have a guest bedroom here with an ensuite designed by our partners down there, Chris the Hefty and my wife Danielle. So this bathroom has an ensuite, and then as well we have a powder room. Obviously you're in the coat closet. Master, which also has fairly tremendous views.
This is the master?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, cool.
Closet.
And you got to rebuild the whole roof.
Literally, we stick framed almost every single piece of wood. Yeah, as you can see, we left a couple of them that aren't damaged.
Yeah, I was going to say these are original.
Yeah, and the inspector signed off on those.
Okay.
We also had to.
So you saved about like $100 on wood.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah.
Save every penny you can on these projects.
And of course, since the fire department flooded the house, we also replaced pretty much all the flooring as well.
Cool. Well,
It's all structural.
let's see the rest of the big view
Excellent.
over here.
That's where we're heading.
Yeah.
Watch out for the stairs, cameraman.
And so you got, I'm assuming the kitchen's over here.
Yeah, right to the left there.
So this is this where the fire started?
So they say she was sitting right about here,
Right here.
and she fell asleep, and you can actually see some of the siding still charred out here.
See that?
Look at that.
In Japan, that's actually, they do that to wood on purpose for the siding, so it's waterproofed as well. But not here in Seattle. We don't do that here.
Concrete siding works
Yeah.
for me.
So and you can kind of tell. All right, so this is original. This looks original.
Correct.
Right.
Again, it was explosion upwards, so most of it was up.
So you can see up. You got this huge beam that you guys had to put in, right? Nice big glue lamp, and you guys why did you not use trusses? Instead of, you guys stick framed it instead.
Yeah, so we were figuring we'd be waiting about 4 to 6 weeks for trusses, and we're into this project already 6 weeks, and this is where we are. So it's easier for us to just put the wood package together. I rented a 36-foot flatbed, and we just went and picked it up from Plywood Supply.
Yeah.
Plug-in Plywood Supply. Sorry.
Yeah, plug it. So look at this, guys. Look at this view. And this is why people live here. Even though it is, November right now. It doesn't always rain in Seattle, but it almost always rains in Seattle. And for now, this is a beautiful view that you guys can marvel at. Is that worth 1.55?
That's what the appraiser said.
Yeah. Oh, look at the railing, dude. Like,
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
guys
you
can
really
see the
don't
railing a
know.
little bit better for the explosion.
So this
that
is
happened.
actually a concrete deck as well. And you can see where the fire literally like pockmarked the concrete, bubbled it. So it was some intense heat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what's your biggest challenge that you have on this project?
This, working with the city.
Working with
and
the
all
city.
the engineering that needs to be done. All the inspections, managing the inspections. So for instance, we've actually gone through 2 plan revisions right now. We originally submitted our plans to get a permit just to do the demo and start working on the roof. And then we revised it as the designers wanted to change the floor plan, which makes sense to increase the value. So then we went back in and we revised the permit a second time to include the interior modifications. And then we decided to call for what's called an advisory inspection. And basically the inspector comes out, looks at it, says, okay, I like this, I don't like that. He kind of wasn't too happy with the scope of work that the city had said that we could do under a subject to field inspection permit. And so he made us get engineering on this 24-foot glue lam, the 30-foot glue lam, and then the 12-foot glue lam that we installed, as well as a couple of the hangers and things like that. And then he told us to get what's called a seismic retrofit. So we had to go back to the engineer again and basically have him put a plan together to connect the house to the foundation in case the big one comes, so the house doesn't slide off onto the hillside.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So that's 3 plan revisions thus far, as well as about $5,000 in engineering fees. So again, the biggest challenge is just working with the city and the engineering and everything they want us to do so we can stay in compliance. Because the last thing we want to do when we're paying private money costs is get shut down for 4 months and have to call in a geotechnical engineer, a civil engineer, and anybody else in the phone book that they want us to call.
Let's
survey.
Let's talk really quick about so when you're investing in real estate, for those of you guys looking at this, is a massive project, right? When you got started in real estate investing and flipping houses, did you ever think that you would have to know any of the rehab and construction stuff that you know today?
No.
And when you guys are starting in real estate, did you ever think that you would ever want to know any? I didn't get started in real estate because I wanted to know rehab and construction and jurisdiction codes and all building codes and the IBC and IRC and all this other crap that's out there and this inspector and that inspector. I didn't want anything to do with that. And can you invest without knowing anything about stuff? Yeah, passive investing for the most part.
Yeah, probably a good
But
idea.
if you're actively flipping houses, unfortunately, you got to learn some of this stuff.
And
right?
sometimes the hard way.
Very hard way, right? So we want to do a video one day of all the horrible shit that's happened to us and investors when we've invested in real estate, especially flipping houses. I think that'd be a
for you.
long video.
Yeah,
very long video. So, but
mini series.
So with that, people also go to one of the numbers
Of
on
course.
this house,
Yep.
and we're gonna write them out. But verbally, really quick, you bought it for how much?
I got a cheat sheet here.
Cheat sheet. All right. So you bought it for.
$730 actually, and
But
that was
$730.
I think a $80,000 wholesale fee.
Wow, 87. Okay, so you get this property like this, right? $80,000 assignment fee for finding a house that's gonna
Yeah.
fall over because you got lucky to find a guy that can take it on in 15 minutes and be good to go. So 730.
Yep.
Right. $300,000 in for remodel, so that's 1,030,000, right, roughly, plus all sorts of other costs associated with holding costs,
absolutely.
which we'll go over that in more detail. And you think you can sell for 145?
So I came into the project. Do you want to get this one? Came into the project because again I had the address. It's not like I had 15 minutes to just walk up and make a decision. I was given the address the day before. Come see it tomorrow. So I was able to do what I call scrubbing or a desktop appraisal. I pulled out some comps. I threw together some kind of numbers based on, $100 a square foot for a rehab is fairly typical. And then so I had kind of an idea. I was at 1,389. I thought was a fairly conservative number. The lender that we used on this one, a new private lender, they require an appraisal before they fund so they can know kind of their ratios and loan to values and how much down we need to bring. Their appraiser came back at 155.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of a spread there between
Yeah.
the 1,389 and the 155 that we had pegged down. So
And that's
hard to say.
It's hard to say. So it's we found this sometimes with our BRRRRs that our appraisal will come back higher than what we actually think we could sell it for. And there's been times with our BRRRR investments where I'm like, man, that appraiser's on drugs that it can sell for that much. But I'm cool with that. We'll take it, right?
Yeah.
But we already know that putting it on the market, it might not sell for that much. But for financing, it's fine. We've also had the opposite happen where we know we could sell it for more, but because the house is super well finished, all this great stuff, but the appraiser might be looking strictly at square footage and bedroom bath count and not at all the other features that would make that house pop and sell for more. And we've had a little bit lower appraisal too, but it's always nice when it goes the other way, right?
It is, right?
But you still, at the end of the day, got to know your numbers, your market, what's really going to sell for it, and don't get in your head. If all of a sudden Rob got in his head, oh, it'll sell for 155. We could spend 400 grand on this project.
No.
Woo! Like, no, you still know what you got to sell it for and what you believe you bought it for, and stay conservative on those numbers. That's
Agreed,
a bonus.
100%. Absolutely.
Otherwise,
icing on the cake.
Yeah. So let's look at the rest of the house, right?
All right.
So what are some rehab challenges that you're facing on this project, if any?
Yeah. So again, if we span up, obviously you can see that we stick frame the whole new roof. We have a beam up there, a ridge beam. Getting this glue lamp inside the house was a pain in the butt. We actually just hooked up a harness and dragged it in through the front window. That was the main challenges, obviously. Besides, we had to tear out most of the floor, replace a lot of it new. And then there's another glue lamp beam in there we have to get engineering on. Finding a hanger like this can be a challenge as well. I just am in love with this thing right here.
Look at that. You see this in industrial buildings.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's catching this glue lamp and this glue lamp right there.
And that glue lamp doesn't even go all the way.
No, it's only like an 8-footer, 10-footer or something like that. So.
Yeah.
But this
So
inspector
don't
still
move
wants engineering.
this.
Yeah, right.
This is what's holding
It's
up the house
holding the
right
world
now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so big. I like how you reuse the top plates there. Like,
Save it.
Yeah.
Save $1.
Everything else is all new. That's funny, dude. All right. So everything else on this thing is brand new except for these top pieces. I love that. That's great. So.
And then, of course, the design challenges. Working, we have the pleasure of working with a couple of very talented women, but being able to kind of pull it all together, as where I'm really focused on working with the city and the inspections and the scheduling, having someone who can come in and actually make it, maybe hit that 1.5 mark as well, because that's not something that I'm going to be doing. I come in and we're going to be doing some Tacoma finishes and things like that. So.
Nothing wrong with Tacoma.
Nothing wrong with Tacoma. But
So what's so it's basically saying it takes a team and having the right team as well, right?
Absolutely.
So who are some key people, like who are not so much the people themselves, but key team members that you would need to do a project like this?
Yeah. So obviously we work with a design company, Plugging In Design. Sorry if I'm to plug things. So they're the people that I was called on my way down here. I said, hey, this is what's going on. I need to know where the critical areas are. If we're in a landslide area, what's the city going to allow me to do?
So that's like your engineer architect
correct.
kind of thing.
And I need to know it like now. So they're able to hop online, do the GIS searches, go back through some perhaps past things that they put together, to come up with kind of an idea of what the city is going to allow us to do, and then how, if we want to do more, we can make revisions. And then as well, I've worked with basically the same general. I technically am the general, but the same construction lead now for about 2 to 3 years. And he's the guy who actually, knows exactly what hangers need to go where. So the inspector walks in and goes,
Those are right.
this looks really professional.
Yeah.
So he's been a godsend, thank goodness. We've gone through, and I think you've gone through a few bad ones as well. So we really take care of him, and he's been amazing. And then, like I said, we have Krista over there doing the design, wife doing the bookkeeping, which is really important. So we know. So we actually borrowed the money for the construction and the purchase. So we really need to be on top of our cash flow, so we know where we are pretty much every day with how much money in the bank. Because if you turn around and see this huge opening here is a sliding door. So it's like a 20-foot sliding door or something like that. It was $12,000.
So $12,000 door is going to go.
They wanted to do a nano wall, and
nanos are. That sounds good, but when you're an investor, I don't know.
Exactly. So that was the compromise. But just being able to every day pull up, your balance sheet and see where you're at, cost to date, when your next mortgage payment is going to be, and where your cash flow is.
You put all your money into this phase, and then half the next phase, and at the end, you're like, that's a $30 faucet. That's like, we don't need that over there. Like, hey, let's do some 3x6, the cheaper tile. Right?
Exactly.
Just do, start cutting everything.
And so they've actually already put together the design plan based on actually Serena's design sheet. I don't know if she's changed it. So that we can give that to the subs based on the budget that we put together. And they've done an amazing job keeping us within our projected finished budget at least. So
that's good.
Yeah. So having that as what I call kind of a sunk cost already, knowing that we're going to be there, and as long as everything else falls along the way. So again, I have a detailed spreadsheet in the budget, and it's going to, we track it, our overs and unders. So if I went over on plumbing, then where can we make that up? and analyzing that on a weekly basis is something that we all do as a team, but my wife Danielle, through her bookkeeping company, does and keeps track of it daily.
And so when you're
reconciles
starting out in this business, and you didn't have all these team members, you didn't have, like, who would you say would be one of the first team members you should probably add on to your business as you're starting to scale in some capacity?
That's a great thing. On the team, so I mean, obviously contractors are great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues and horror stories with contractors, and finding one can be difficult, especially when there's so much work, because they tend to take on a lot. And then someone you can rely on to get the deal done, who can fund these things in 7 to 10 days as well.
A lender.
Yeah,
Good
lenders,
Good
exactly.
lending partner. Yeah, for sure. That's important. And so
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's different. I know our first thing was because we got lucky on the lending side, like, I guess, from just relationships early on in our career. So that was something that we just kind of stumbled in. But for us, for me, it's having somebody take care of all that little stuff that I just like, all the paperwork, all making sure that the finishes got taken care of, making sure like all those little details. So for us, it was an assistant for us. But
and we're not at a scale that you are, and we tend to do larger projects. With maybe perhaps larger returns, hopefully, so that we don't have to do the volume, and so it is a lot more hands-on. And unfortunately, we have our horror stories when we try to go a little bit more hands-off. But when there's so much money on the line,
other people's money,
it's just something that we're very hands-on with, involved in.
That's important.
It's a lot that me and the wife are the ones dotting the I's and crossing the T's and things like that, as well as a decent attorney to run things by too. Helps.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, always get a good attorney, right? So let's go look at the floor plans and see what this is going to look like.
Right on.
And we can draw out some numbers too. So which one's what? What are we looking at here? So this is the basement. All right, so for those of you guys, this is what a fancy plan looks like, right? So you have the basement, and what did you have to do here? Like, is there something different that you had to do for the floor plan? Or?
So originally this was just an open room. Now we already had our egress windows in there, which is a godsend. So we didn't have to cut any concrete.
What's an egress window? Just for
an egress
people?
window is a window. I think it's 40 inches.
So people could jump out of the window if it's on fire.
Yeah, right? Or more so that a firefighter could actually get inside the window and save little Timmy from the fire.
Got it.
Or get out or whatnot. So this was just an open room. So when we actually bought the house, it was only 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, I think. And so now we're going to be with the addition of these 4 bedrooms and 3.5 bath or something like that. And then this bathroom right here was kind of stuck under the stairs. And by code, we actually couldn't have the clearance for the toilet that you need on everywhere. So that bathroom got moved over here. This was all just a big garage. And so we gobbled this space up for a bathroom, a dedicated laundry room, and a storage room that's going to have the furnace and the tankless water heater.
And if you're newer-ish in the business, how, like, I know people are like, well, how do you know to do all that? Like, or how do you design all that?
So again, we work with a design company, and
sub
they
it out.
Yeah. For us, it's subbing it out. I mean, I could spend weeks here just going crazy. So that's something that we pay. They do an as-built. And again, my wife Danielle and Krista went in, and they actually spent, I think, a good couple hours playing with some different plans. Move this wall here, move that wall there. What else can we do? How does that look? What do you think of that? And this is what they came up with in order to create the most value.
And kind of like, and every time you move something, it might cost something or make issues for, this is the basement.
Exactly.
So it might make issues for the next floor because of structure.
And that's also why, for us working with a company that has their arms around the engineering and the architectural side as well and the design, they know that if you move a load, you need to have it transferred down below it. So it's not like, oh, let's just do this, and they don't, no one's considering, like you said, what we need to do below to catch that load.
Yep.
If we need to do more footings or a beam or something like that. So.
And it's funny because like Rosie, who's also holding one of these cameras, guys, who works with us, she was watching how I make floor plans for our smaller projects, and it's whiteout and a pen. Right? I'm like, oh, well, we don't need that wall, we do that. doesn't work on houses like this. You can't do that, right?
Well,
Yeah.
the first thing that the inspector wanted to see when he came in was this thing with
Yeah.
a nice stamp from the city of Seattle. That's not what we have here. We have the smaller one with the stamp on it, but
Yeah.
that was the first thing he wanted to see. And I think if it had a bunch of whiteout on it and things
Yeah,
like
it
that,
might not work.
there'd be a big red tag on the front door right now.
Yeah.
So,
So this is the top floor then.
Correct.
Right. And
Yeah.
this is where we are now. So we're actually standing like right here.
Yep.
Right. And you vaulted the ceiling. I don't know
it
if
was
you guys
actually
caught
already
that.
vaulted.
And,
So you see, vaulted ceiling to be restored, replace joists like for like.
that saves you some permit issues.
That was how we were able to get our permit over the counter.
Yeah. That's
Now
awesome.
bringing this thing in, that was another story. So that's where we had to hook harnesses up to about 5 guys and just kind of lift it in here through the window. So that was fun. But really, this spaces haven't changed a huge amount. There was a closet over here for this bedroom, which we gobbled up and put in an ensuite in the powder room. And then the closet got transferred into this kitchen because this was a little deep. And so now we were able to move this closet, like I said, over here, and still have a good sized pantry or good sized kitchen with
Yeah.
the pantry right there. And then the master, they reconfigured the bath and the walk-in closet.
That's awesome. So it's a cool house.
Mm-hmm.
And then so let's talk some numbers because so even though this project might not be for the newest person to go do, right? In fact, stay away from it if you're brand new, like completely projects like this, like not worth it by any means whatsoever, right?
Learn a lot.
Yeah, $300,000 rehab could very easily in this part of
Yes.
the world be turned into a $500,000 rehab, like very easily.
Yeah.
And there goes your profit. But even though like most of my career, I've done a lot of profit margins where we're making 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand on houses, and we're just turning. That's what we've done over the years. There's a prize to be had if you do projects like this and the size of them. Right?
Absolutely.
So let's go over what that prize is through the magic easel. Woo! How's the lighting? Good.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to give you a pen, but you might not
Okay.
even need it.
All
So
right.
it's all right.
Cool.
All right. So you purchased it.
7:30.
Purchase equals 730. That's a 3, everybody. And so what was the so 730? But like you paid a wholesale fee, so an assignment fee
Included in the 7:30.
included, right?
Yeah, so
but
the
that
base,
was
the contract was 650, I think.
okay.
Okay. Say.
And the assignment fee was 80.
Yeah.
That was an $80,000 assignment fee. So if you're the wholesaler, that's your payday finding a project like this and having the right buyer that'll jump on it, right? Cool. And so that's included, right? All that together. And then you said your rehab was going to be
300,000.
300,000 rehab. And then what would you say your holding
So I was
costs?
holding costs.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Holding costs.
Try to bring my little thing in here.
And that includes your finance or whatever
Yep,
you got.
exactly. Hold on. Down payment, project cost.
Should we- Do we need your wife here?
Yeah, probably. Be a good idea. I don't know. Well, we're at 10%.
10%. All right.
No, sorry, 8%. 8%.
8%. Oh,
8%.
yeah.
That's right.
You got those guys. I know who they are.
Yeah.
All right. So is that the whole project plus you put 10% down or something?
Yeah,
or
10%
roughly?
down.
All right. So you put 10% down on 1.3, or did you only put 10% on the 730?
730.
Oh, see, they're hooking you up.
73,000.
So you had to
down
put
payment.
$73,000 down payment. Right.
Loan fee of 18.
So that's a
got me a
down
little
payment.
rich on that one.
And
Oh, sorry, interest costs. Estimated interest costs
Any
of
points?
$80,000. Yeah,
Yeah,
there was. They're
okay.
a little heavy on the points, actually. It
2
was
points?
8. Yeah, 2.
2 points. Okay. So you had 2 points on the whole thing.
Mhm.
Right. So you have $20,000 in roughly. So basically, this is a holdback for escrow and construction. So he borrowed that from the hard money lender, and that's sitting in an escrow account technically at the end of the day, give or take. They're probably using it. Who knows, right? And then and they're not charging him on that interest. Now, when he draws 100 grand, they'll charge him on that interest.
Now my principal goes to 830.
830. And now it's accumulating. So if you are sitting on this for 2-3 months in permit phase, you're not paying
Correct.
interest on 300 grand that you're not
Just
using.
the 730.
Right. So you're getting paying interest on this instead. So 73 down, but you have points of about 20 grand roughly. And so we got that. And then your interest cost is 10%. So 8%,
Yeah.
sorry, 8.
Sorry, on my little handy spreadsheet it says estimated interest costs. Holding it for 1 year is 81,000.
Okay, so $81,000 for that.
And
plus
another
some
little thing
stuff.
is when you're doing a project like this or anything similar, again, always match your product, your loan product to the project. If we got stuck in permitting for 4 months, we could easily take this out to a year. So we've got a 1-year note, so we don't have extension fees, problems with that, so that if it did take a year, we're at least
good.
covered.
Yeah.
We've built that into the pro forma. So as of now, we've built in 12 months in interest fees, and the note's 12 months as
Because
well.
there's a number of bridge lenders, hard money lenders that might do only a 5 or 6 month note, and that's good for the quick properties. But this, it's not a quick project.
So much could go sideways.
Yeah.
And that's really one of our biggest jobs, is to just make sure we're in compliance with the city, as we talked about, as far as making sure they don't close us down.
Yeah.
Because we do something over and above the permit or something
Yeah.
like that, or that the field inspector doesn't like, so.
All right, so you did that.
Mhm.
There's other things, utilities, whatever, blah 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 blah, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, but it's not that much. Your property taxes, which you can accumulate, you can pay at the end of the
Yeah.
project if you want. So you don't have to worry. That's not really an out-of-pocket thing. You pay a little, fee for not paying the first quarter or
Yep,
the first
of course.
half of it, whatever it is, right? And then you get your $20,000 in points, interest costs, right? So you got about roughly $101,000 in finance costs, right? So you're paying $100,000 to somebody else, which is fine.
And the wholesaler as well.
And the
already got
wholesaler,
paid, too.
right? So
Everyone gets paid.
$180,000 just to those guys, right? Got
Spread it
it.
around.
So that's all rough costs. Then you got your selling costs, right?
Mhm.
And that's going to come out, which we can go over that in a second. But then you think that your ARV or resale price is going to be what?
So again, I walked in at 1,389, and the lender's appraiser came back at 1.55.
Okay.
Excise tax laws are changing.
Yep. Excise tax in the state of Washington. We don't have state income tax in the state of Washington. So there's a few other taxes we have. One is excise tax, which is if we sell a property in the state of Washington, we pay 1.78% excise tax on the value that you sell the property at. And it's changing based now on how much you sell it for. So it could actually be higher if you sell it for a higher price,
Yeah.
such as 1.5 million.
And that's exactly what the threshold is.
Yeah.
So, I
So
don't
let's
really
say,
wanna
like,
go
let's
to
call it, what does your projection say on that thing?
13895.
Okay, 1, 3, so we'll use your, you'll use what you wrote down
Right
to
on.
do this, right? So that says, what is your projected profit at the end of the day?
$182,000.
182,000.
487.
487 bucks, there you go.
Yep.
Okay, so-
And that's a 12-month hold.
Alright, and that's, so you have a projected net profit of $182,000 at the end of the day, right? That's if you sell at 389, you might sell for more.
And
And that's if you use 300 or more, right? And that's if you hold it for 12 months.
Correct.
So this is almost kind of a worst case scenario, right? For
which
the
is
most
great
part.
if the numbers work at that.
Yeah,
And when you're walking into something like this and you have 15 minutes to make a decision,
this one.
and you have 15 minutes to make a decision, try to go worst case scenario.
So-
And if it works, then
So if he does this right, his worst case is roughly almost $200,000 for this project.
Correct.
Right? Awesome. Your best case, it sells for 1.5.
that'd be amazing.
Right, 1.5. And they also, I know we didn't put selling costs in there because selling costs is there, but that number is reflecting the selling cost. I mean, are you gonna pay full real estate commissions? Or?
We're going back and forth on that. So we're actually, we're all broke, not all of us, but most of us are brokers as well. So we have the option. So actually on the pro forma right now, the selling cost is only 3% commission, and then the 2% in closing costs, including the excise.
So you did 5%.
However, depending on the tax structure at that point in time and things like that, we'll probably end up actually doing the full commission and just taking that money into our real estate instead of getting it off the
Yeah.
property.
Okay, so you're doing a 5 to 8% closing
Yeah,
cost,
correct.
depending on what you decide at the end. So that can fluctuate a little bit. This can go up. The rehab can go up too, but right now it's seeming.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right now we're doing good.
Good. All right. So rehab is going to be going down, right? You're going to spend 200 on.
I'm gonna spend 300 on the nose.
They're going to nose, right?
That way they can get their finishes,
Yes.
right?
And you have almost a $200,000 net. Plus, you can maybe get some back-end commission,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody else, your lender's happy. Everybody, your other investors are happy.
Wholesaler's
everybody's
happy.
Our wholesaler's happy.
Real happy.
Everyone's happy. Yeah, it's $80,000 wholesale fee. So when you're doing these projects and stuff, when you're brand new, this is definitely not the project for you, right? And some people want to aspire to projects like these. And for me, I was never one that aspired. I look at this.
I remember
and
you
like,
did a couple. At least
I did,
one.
yeah. I aspired on a couple, and then I never did them again, right? So I learned from own personal experience that because our systems are not as hands-on in this scenario that when you do a house like the project like this, you either have to have somebody on your team that's completely hands-on with it, or you got to be the one that's hands-on. Yeah. And we thought we had that, we didn't. So
Been there a couple times myself.
And for me, it's a peace of mind thing. I'd rather just go, screw it, I don't want to do a house like this. And because, you know, even the after photos, I can't wait to see what this looks like. But if it was mine, I couldn't wait to never see it again, right? At the same time, right? But so you got to know what you really want. If you know you're going to want to do projects like this, you got to know what it actually takes to do projects like this and be hands-on and love it and see it and make the money for it, which is going to be good. If you have no interest in that, stay away from these projects.
We've been doing this for 11 years just to get to this phase and be comfortable doing something like this. And I still wake up in the morning with anxiety about certain things, like, inspector or this. Or, okay, we need to add the deck to the permit.
Yeah, just do it.
We weren't going to do it, but now we're doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't want this guy to shut us down. So.
Too many issues. You get lucky one or two times, and then all of a sudden you don't get lucky.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, God, we got to make that video one day. All right. So, any other thoughts that you have on this project, or anything you want to share for anybody that's watching this?
The view. Let's
The
do
view.
another shot of the view real quick, first of all. Yeah.
Cool. And then also, as a public service announcement, if you are on oxygen tanks, do not smoke cigarettes around them.
Yes.
Even though they already say keep away from flammable things, this house is proof to keep your oxygen tanks away from flammable things.
And she was smoking since she was 12, so kids don't start smoking.
Yeah, until you're at least 18. And so, wait, no, don't say that. All right, but you can do whatever you want if you're over 18.
Except drink.
Except drink, that's right. Depends on where you watch. There's people that watch this in like, you know, international locations.
so
Maybe BP will cut this part out. So, any other thoughts?
Have a good team, know your numbers, be conservative, and then stay on top of your numbers so we can make modifications along the way.
And where can people reach out to you if they want to get a hold of you?
2004, and then me and my wife are info@momanddadrehab.com.
Perfect.
You can get a hold of us there. If you have any deals, questions, comments, concerns, if you have yourself in a project like this and have a question or just want some feedback on who you can contact, feel free to reach out. I help anyone local.
In the Seattle area.
Yeah, in the Seattle area.
If you live
all over the place, huh?
some other country, or you are in some other state outside of this, I'm like, you just give your number away, dude. So you're going to be getting some interesting calls.
Right?
For that said, definitely, you know, don't abuse that. But they can reach them, email. They're great. They're great feedback and a lot of things out there. For us, we're always doing these broadcasts as much as possible. And also, you can also check us out on Tarl Yarber on Instagram. Follow and like, subscribe BiggerPockets. Watch all their videos on YouTube as much as possible too. And make sure you tune into the next video that we're going to do, which who knows where that's going to be, but we'll see you guys on the next one. And then Rob, you also said that this is a team project. And we talked about team on this video too. So who are these beautiful people?
We got Phil Hefty here. Phil, you want to kind of describe what your role is in this project?
So I'm just kind of here on the day-to-day basis, working with Miguel, kind of whatever he needs. I'm the go-for,
On the
go-to.
construction side.
Yeah,
Project manager kind of thing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And Krista.
Krista Hefty.
Yes, interior designer. So working with Danielle on the project and pulling it all together, along with Yen, the architect, to come up with the redesign of the project. And then also realtor. So we will be selling this at the end.
Yay. And
For
then-
155.
And then Danielle
Yes.
Knowles.
My role is all over the place. I do the bookkeeping, I do the design, and I'll be helping sell the house. So
What's it like working with your husband?
it's amazing.
What's it like working with your husband?
no, it's fun. It's good. It's nice.
great.
Yeah, no,
We're
it's-
still married.
Yes.
I think it's amazing. I think it's nice that we get to work.
That's good for
together.
video. That's good. Good. I like that you said that.
No, it's fun. I like it. Yes.
Right on. We appreciate it, Darryl.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll catch you guys on the next video. Boom.